The Girl Who Burned the Episode 6. Don't worry, there are no signs of hunters so far. They don't know where we live or where we walk. They caught us while we were doing the special training that the reps get. Thankfully, no one was killed in the attack. We got the better of the hunters. 2 people were really badly hurt though. Hey, let's give a round of applause to Luca Hunter for being such a hero. He literally put his own life on the line to save his friend, Lila Redford, Kieran said, thanking him. I clapped along with the crowd, proud of Luca for doing that to protect Lila. And to Serena Sinclair, who sadly couldn't make it today because of her health issues. She took the bullet for her son, Talia Ainsley. We are so lucky to have had such a brave woman in our lives. I could feel the tears starting to build up in my eyes, but I didn't dare let them fall. I smiled with the relief that my mother had made it and clapped with the crowd. Are you okay? Logan said through the mind link. With healers, it was impossible to block each other out. Healers were supposed to work together and it was forbidden to deny each other. Yeah, cousin. I'm just happy that my mum is okay. She's a Sinclair. Logan said, and it made me smile even more. That's my Aunt Serena. But we are still in danger, Kieran went on, straight up. As an alpha, it was never their job to be dishonest with their pack. We've got a lead on rogues helping these hunters take down both our packs. It's true. Rogues and hunters have teamed up. My mouth fell open and there were loud gasps. The whole room started talking hysterically. Before things could get any crazier, Luca and Kieran said, "Quiet down." The whole room went quiet in a flash. Logan and I were pretty shocked when we first heard this. The other reps kept a straight face, but I could tell they were as scared as everyone in this room was. Why? I said something without thinking, and then I wished I hadn't. Everyone looked at us. I was honestly just curious. I looked Kieran straight in the eye, my head held high. What are their intentions? Kieran took a few seconds to reply. He looked me straight in the eye and then back at everyone in front of him. We've got something the hunters are after, but I'm never ever going to give it to them. It was all chaos in the room, all of a sudden. What? A guy with grey hair yelled. This is just ridiculous, a woman shouted, holding her 3-year-old son. You'd put your packs at risk just because you're not willing to give anything up. Another woman yelled. Enough! Lucas shouted over the crowd. It shook the windows, and everyone fell silent. Everyone looked down, ashamed and scared. I also felt a bit intimidated by the authority in his voice. It's too valuable to be given up. What could it be? Logan said next to me, looking pretty shocked. I'm afraid that's private, Kieran replied. This meeting is adjourned. Please just leave and don't go pointing out our pack house. In about an hour and a half, the conference room was empty. Roman, Damien, and Avery had already left. We all plunked ourselves down on the sofas in the living area and went a bit blank. What do the hunters want? I thought I'd ask my friends. I'm not sure, Cruz replied. Only the alphas know. Luca and Kieran came out of the conference room at that moment. They looked knackered and stressed. Lila jumped up from her seat and gave Luca a hug to calm him down. Kieran strolled towards the hallway that led to the front door. He was probably just out for a run to clear his head. "Logan, are you all set?" I asked, standing up from my seat. I really wanted to see my family. Logan nodded and followed me to the front door. "That was a proper workout," Logan said. "Tell me about it. Are you ready to see your mum?" "I'm really looking forward to seeing her. I missed her so much. I'm really looking forward to hearing her compliments. I know what she's going to say. She's going to thank me for being the doting cousin and say I'm immensely handsome," Logan joked. I gave him a little nudge in the ribs and laughed. "Be careful. Once she knows what you said, she won't be complimenting you anymore," I said. "I'm only joking," Logan said, putting his arm around my shoulder. "I miss Aunt Serena and I'm really looking forward to seeing her after the attack," I said, being honest. "Just say it, Logan. Avoiding it wouldn't change the truth." "I'm sorry." He didn't say a word when we saw the scene in front of us. I froze, feeling that familiar ache in my chest. This time, though, it was 10 times worse. I've always had a feeling when he's been kissing or shagging another girl. It was different when you saw it. It confirmed that whatever you were feeling was true. Kieran was facing us and Pamela was on the other side of the door. She smiled, then went up on her tiptoes and kissed Kieran on the lips. It was only for a second, but it felt like my heart was breaking and I couldn't breathe. I bit my lip, stopping myself from making a noise. My wolf was angry. Logan looked pretty annoyed as he pulled me closer to his chest and pushed towards the door. "Excuse me," he said, shoving past Kieran without any respect. He gave me the keys to my Mercedes and got behind the wheel. He drove out of there as fast as he could. But I didn't miss the hurt look on Kieran's face when he looked at me. After Logan gave me a couple of concerned glances, I told him, "I'm fine, Logan. I don't believe you. You're so honest with everything else except yourself." I jumped a little when I looked at him. I could tell he was angry by the way he gripped the steering wheel tightly, causing his knuckles to turn white. "He's a bit of an arsehole," he continued. "Nah, Logan," I said, trying to change the subject. "No, Talia. Why are you trying to run away from your problems with Kieran?" he cried, but not without a bit of stubbornness. "I'm not running away, Logan," I snapped. "If I was running away, I wouldn't have come here in the first place, which makes me think again about why we came here in the first place. I came here for my mum, not Kieran." We got to my place in no time, and the mini mansion was there, looming over us. Logan and I sat there for a couple of seconds. He looked at me and said, "You're right. I'm sorry." "Logan, you're just being a good cousin," I said, smiling. "So, thanks for looking after me." "Always, Talia," Logan said. "Now then, let's go in so Aunt Serena can give me a compliment." I rolled my eyes as I got out of the car. Before I could open the door, it slammed open. I looked up at the guy with the brown eyes, and there was his brown hair, swaying in the wind. He smiled at me, looking really handsome, before he wrapped his muscular arms around me. "Elias," I yelled, hugging him even closer. I felt a few tears of happiness escape. I've missed you so much. Little sister, he said, pulling back from me to look at me. You've got a pretty toned arm. Did this guy, Elias, stop to slap Logan's head? Are you working too hard? She was a weakling, Logan said, putting Elias in a headlock once Elias let go of me. She couldn't even lift a hollow block, could she? Hey, I said. Stop exaggerating. Boys, a woman's voice laughed. They think all girls are weaklings. Tasha, I shouted, almost tackling the petite blonde-haired woman to the ground. Tasha and I had definitely got closer when Elias and she came to visit me 6 months ago. We went shopping and shared similar thoughts and our sarcasm towards Elias. She was like my older sister and she was. To be exact, she was my sister-in-law. She was human and she was mates with my older brother. Talia, you're going to kill me, she said, choking. I let go of her a bit before saying, right. You're human. Did Logan teach you? Tasha gasped, giving Logan a playful look. Why does everyone blame me? Logan cried. Because you're a stupid, we all said at the same time, clearly used to saying this to him. You guys are all mean, Logan said, crossing his arms over his chest like a 5-year-old. Anyway, Tasha's making food since Aunt Mabel's on a trip around the world, Elias said. I'll take you to see Mum. My heart was in my mouth the whole way to her room. I jumped when I heard a cough that sounded like it was coming from somewhere deep inside. Elias put an arm around my shoulder, trying to make me feel better. I burst into tears when Elias opened the door, which made my heart break. My mum was lying in bed, looking at us a bit tiredly. Every blink felt like it took forever. Her skin was see-through and sweaty, even though the room was cold. Her dry lips turned up in a smile as she looked at us. Talia, my darling, she said, her voice cracking. Why are you crying? Come here and give me a hug. I went over to her and gave her a hug. Her arms were shaking as she lifted them slowly to go around her neck. Mom, I'm so happy to see you. Luckily, she didn't have any wounds on her face, because that would have upset me even more. I didn't dare remove the blanket around her. If I had, I would have seen the gauze wrapped around the area she was shot. I missed you, my baby, my mum said, smiling. Hey Auntie, Logan said happily, coming over to give my mum a quick peck on the cheek. Oh, Logan, you're so handsome, my mum said, patting his cheek. Thanks for looking after Talia. I rolled my eyes as Logan gave me a knowing look. You're welcome. Anything for my family. Hey, did you manage to find a partner yet? My mum asked, knowing about Logan's quest to find his perfect partner. No, Logan said darkly, before joking around. I don't think anyone could handle this much strength and hotness. Better watch it, boy, my mum laughed, tiredly. Even if I'm weak, I could still take you down. Why don't we give Talia and my mum some time together? Elias said, smiling at the two of us. So, how are you? I asked when it was just my mum and I. I'm good, Talia. Mom, I said, as tears welled up in my eyes. I'm sorry it wasn't there. I feel like it's my fault that you guys got attacked. I'm really sorry. You almost died because of me. I'm the one who's caused all this. Nonsense, Talia, my mum told me. Stop blaming yourself for things you didn't even do. It's true. Give me proof that it is then. When I didn't say anything, my mum just kept talking. Talia, you always blame yourself. You always end up tiring yourself out. It's not your fault. Stop it. I got shot because I was protecting my kids, and I'd rather die than let them die. I love you, Mum, I said, as I lay next to her in her king-size bed. Stop crying, my mum said. How about you? Are you okay? I'm fine, I said, not having a clue. Why would she ask that question when I was clearly healthy and unwounded? I heard about Kieran, honey, my mum whispered. My heart constricted and I started crying even more. It was hard to act like it was okay with me and my mum there. She would read the lie. I don't even know, I said before I could stop myself. I was the one who broke up with him, but it wasn't because I didn't love him anymore. I broke up with him because I didn't want him getting tangled up with my own problems for being a healer. It really hurts to know he loves someone else. It really hurts to know that he's happy without me. It really hurts to know he's kissing and hugging somebody else. I'm doing my best to act like everything's fine, but it's not easy. There was a bit of a pause, and then my mum said, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Just remember one thing." "What is it?" "Love is always going to find ways to kill people. That's the test. It's the test to see that two people will still love each other despite their challenges." While everyone else was busy doing something productive and fun, I was sat outside on the porch steps. I don't usually indulge in self-pity, but I guess I was feeling a bit down on my luck. I was pretty annoyed with myself for being so weak and vulnerable, doubting everything in life and being such a pessimist. I didn't want to talk about Kieran, but it actually turned out to be a good thing. It made me realize that I wasn't totally to blame for my heartbreak. It took my mum realizing what everyone had been telling me for her to get that he didn't have to get into a relationship just because I wanted a little break. We were like two peas in a pod. I really missed him. I really missed his warm hugs. I really missed our passionate kisses. I really missed his teasing and joking. I really missed snuggling up next to him. I missed the sparks that flew whenever we touched. I really missed his laugh. I missed his smirk, too. I didn't know anything about him. What happened to us? That's right. I've ended it. I couldn't stop thinking about running my fingers through his hair, which he still had short. I wanted to stare into his blue eyes forever, knowing that nobody else in the entire universe would feel the way I did when I stared into them. I wanted to kiss his soft lips, thinking about how good it would feel to feel tingly all over my body in the next few milliseconds. He was an addiction, like my own drug, like my own coffee flavor, and you all know how much I love coffee. Oh well, I'm just a hopeless romantic at heart. You just love him, my wolf teased me. You have got to be kidding me. You really need to use that now? Seriously? Thanks for taking me back to the good old days, I said, remembering the first time Kieran told me he loved me. I should have felt bad, but I couldn't help smiling. He still loves you too, she whispered. My heart was beating really fast before I laughed at her. You don't believe me? He's got a girlfriend, and to think I was the hopeless romantic. You're even worse. Growl. You're so girly. I mean, you could always just growl instead of saying it out loud, right? It's like saying OMG instead of oh my gosh. I'm telling you, he still loves you. Okay, so that's the day Paula Deen stops clogging her arteries with butter. You're such a pessimist. And you're a nosy gossip girl. You're the one that's a female dog, literally. Can you just make up with him? I miss my big dog. Ew, that's what you call Kieran's wolf. I crinkled my nose and let out a sigh. I miss him too. I swear, it's like I could smell him right now. His manly scent wafted up my nose, causing my wolf to purr with delight. I took a big breath and took it all in. My eyes rolled back in contentment and I let out a soft moan. That's my favorite sound of all time, someone joked. I jumped a foot in the air, and met amused clear ones with my eyes. He ran his hand through his dark hair and smiled at me. He was sitting next to me, looking at the dark forest in front of us. I would have been angry that he approached me, but there was just something about the way he came on that made it clear he wasn't looking for a fight. For the first time in 14 months, I agreed with him. I was fed up with all this fuss. Yeah, I just used hullabaloo. You're as asterisk as ever, I said, smiling slightly at the memories. Kieran gave me a smirk that made my toes curl. As cheesy as it sounds, there was no one else who could compete with his looks. He was ridiculously good-looking. You're still a grumpy old woman trapped in a teenage body, aren't you? Kieran joked. I let out a sigh. He was still the same. He didn't change that much after all. I think your comebacks are still a bit weak. Come on, Redford. It's tough for a student to learn if they've got a rubbish teacher. Touché, I said with a smirk. I thought you were hanging out with Beck. Beck decided to cut up Lila's undergarments, he said, laughing. Oh gosh, that sound. It was great to hear. I didn't want to be there when Lila threw a tantrum. At that exact moment, I laughed at just the right moment. There was a loud crash inside the house. Beckett Morvan, Lila said in a low voice. You're such a child. Then there was this high-pitched scream, and it was unmistakably Beckett Morvan's. Kieran and I burst out laughing. Yeah, it wasn't a proper laugh, but I still appreciated the fact that I actually laughed in his presence. The silence that followed was actually pretty comforting. I couldn't believe that we were actually having a civil conversation. So, how's your mum doing? Kieran asked, sounding worried. I don't know what it was, but there was just something about him that made me trust him. She's fine, I sighed. I just wish I'd been there to save her. She wouldn't be suffering right now. It's not your fault, he said. I know this might sound strange, but I think he moved a bit closer to me. You weren't expecting it. You need to stop blaming yourself for everything, Talis. So, you and Pamela? I asked. To be honest, I just blurted it out. I couldn't help myself. I was dying to know more. Also, I wanted to stop talking about my mum before I ended up having a breakdown again. His eyes opened wide before he scratched the back of his neck. "It's nothing," he said simply, shrugging. I don't know why, but his answer made me angry. I pushed my brown hair out of my face, sure that my green eyes were blazing with anger. "It's nothing. I lost it." "What do you mean it's nothing? Was he using her? She was such a sweet girl. It was totally wrong of him to do that to her. She didn't do anything wrong to him, and he was just using her to get over a breakup." "You wouldn't get it, Talis," Kieran whispered, looking a bit annoyed. "Oh, please enlighten me," I snapped sarcastically. "Best not to say, Talia. She loves you, you know," I said, my voice starting to rise. I stood up and faced him. "And you had to go and break her heart." At that moment, I couldn't hold back the tears. I rubbed furiously at them. At that moment, I was trying to work out whether I was talking about Pamela or myself. "What exactly are you trying to do?" I yelled. "Talia," Kieran said, sounding a bit desperate. "I'm telling you. Ignorance is bliss. I'm not in the mood for secrets right now." "Why does it matter to you?" Kieran said, his voice getting louder. He was so close that I could feel the electricity buzzing around us. I looked into his dark eyes. "Why do you care what goes on between Pamela and me?" "Stop trying to turn the tables, Kieran," I said, poking him in the chest. "Why does it matter, Talia? I asked you something. Why does it matter to you?" Kieran let out a growl. "It shouldn't matter so much to you, Talia. You're the one who broke it off. So why should you care? I was wondering if you've ever thought about the fact that I'm still in love with you?" I lost it, and tears rolled down my flushed face. I shoved him in the chest and punched him, driven by all the anger I felt. "Just because I broke up with you doesn't mean you have to have a girlfriend. You want to know why I broke up with you? I didn't break up with you because I didn't love you. I just didn't want you to get hurt and get tangled up in my mess. You want to know why? Because I loved you too much to watch you get hurt." I breathed in, tears welling up. I wasn't sure if Kieran could understand me anymore, given the way I was speaking. He didn't say anything, just looked at me in shock. I was so stupid. I thought my soulmate still loved me. And there it was. The excruciating pain that almost killed me, Kieran. I almost died because you made love to another woman. Does this mark mean nothing to you?" I asked, pushing my brown hair back and showing him the eclipse-shaped birthmark on my neck. "So, as I was saying, the answer to your question is pretty clear. I care because I'm still in love with you." He stayed quiet for a bit before his lips trembled. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "You're not sorry," I snapped once again. I got angry again. "If you were sorry or if I meant anything to you, you wouldn't have been with Pamela." "Talis," Kieran replied, sounding upset. "No, Kieran," I said, putting up my hand. "Don't pretend you care when it's clear you don't. You're still that playboy and I was one of those stupid sluts who fell in love with his player ways." Kieran's eyes going black. He punched the cement wall of the house, leaving a dent in it. I jumped back a bit, even though I knew he wouldn't hurt me. "If you still loved me, you'd have faith in our relationship. If you still loved me, you would have made sure you kept our relationship alive, despite the drama that comes with being a healer. If you were still keen on a relationship, we'd still be together. And don't try to say I didn't care when you made it seem like you didn't love me anymore when we broke up. So stop being jealous of my relationship with Pamela. You're an A*, I said, shoving him in the chest. What's going on here? Lucas shouted as he ran out the back door. He stood between Kieran and me. Kieran's eyes had gone from crystal blue to pitch black. His growls filled the silence. Cruz, Beck, Brielle, Marin, and Lila were watching with their eyes wide open from the porch. Logan was standing next to me, giving Kieran the eye. Just step away, Carson, Kieran said, breathing in and out. This is just a chat between me and Talia. This conversation has ended, Lucas said. Just calm down, okay? Whatever, Kieran muttered, looking at me before he ran off. His clothes were all torn to shreds as his beautiful grey wolf ran into the forest. Logan, keep Talia calm. It was only then that I realized my fur was itching to escape my skin and my growls were low and vicious. There might be hunters in the forest and the last thing we need is a dead alpha, Luca ordered. My blood ran cold, cutting my anger short. I watched as Luca legged it off towards the woods in his wolf form. After hearing what Luca said, I wanted to follow him to make sure my friend was okay. Talia, you're not going there, Logan ordered, reading my thoughts through the mind link. He was a higher healer than me, so I was reluctant to move. I looked at him angrily, storming into the house with fresh tears running down my face. I didn't answer my friend's calls and I kicked myself for being so stupid. Don't worry, my wolf whispered, at the same time as I did. After Logan and I got a heads up last night that the hunters and the rogues were still on our tail, we decided to do some digging on our own. After all, we were Sinclairs, and we weren't ones to just stand around and wait for something to happen. Logan and I decided to take things into our own hands. That guy was lucky there weren't any hunters or rogues in the woods last night, Logan said, sitting comfortably in the passenger seat. Tell me about it, I muttered, gripping the steering wheel. I don't know what I would have done if he died. Logan just sighed and didn't say anything. He's been on the ball all morning, keeping a close eye on me and giving Kieran the stink eye. He moaned more than I did about the whole situation. Everyone moaned more than I did. It was pretty clear they weren't exactly thrilled with him right then. When I found out he'd got home okay, I cried tears of relief. I was really worried, and if he died, I would have hated myself for the rest of my life. I pulled into the small car park at the huge spot. It was one of 3 stores selling guns in Oakmere. We checked out one of the other 2 gun stores before we came here. But we didn't go for it in the end because the guns were rusty and the place was a bit of a shambles. I looked at the small, rectangular shop with a sense of trepidation. I'm the one who always thinks of the worst-case scenarios. I was worried that the humans would find out what we were. It was risky walking into a place with guns. We could be dead any minute if they found out. So, when Logan and I got to the shop, the little bell on the door went off to let them know we'd arrived. My stomach did a flip when I saw all the guns on the shelves and walls. Logan, who always stayed calm, snorted at a picture of a man next to the bear he'd shot, smiling proudly. I was amazed when it landed on the same kind of spears I saw the night of the warehouse incident. Logan, I whispered, gripping his forearm. Those are the ones the hunters used when my dad planned the attack on us. His eyes widened slightly before he gave a smirk. Then I think we found the right place. How could you be so careless? Hi, a gravelly voice said. We turned around to face a skinny guy dressed in faded jeans and a flannel shirt. His dark, curly hair was pushed under a blue, faded cap. He smiled, showing a set of yellowing teeth. His tag says his name is Hank. Can I help you with anything? Yeah, Logan said, looking around the place with a puzzled expression. To be honest, I don't really know much about guns, but we just moved in with our family. We're trying to get rid of the dogs that we've seen in our backyard. We've got a little sister and we're worried about her. What are your suggestions? I tried to keep a straight face. Logan was good at acting. I wouldn't be surprised if he made it into Hollywood with his charming good looks and his acting skills. Ah, Hank said, smiling wider like he knew something we didn't. Dogs. That's a big problem here at Oakmere. Follow me. We followed him to a set of rifles behind the counter. He went behind the counter, took a gun off the rack and handed it to Logan. Logan took it in his hands and had a good look at the gun. Does this look familiar? Logan asked through the mind-linked, playing with the black metal. No, you'd smell the wolfsbane. This isn't what we're after. It's just a regular rifle. So, why did your family decide to move to such a small town? Hank asked, curiously. Our dad's a geologist. We move around a lot, to small towns. We usually stay for 2 to 3 years and then we move again, Logan said smoothly. How old are you, son? Hank asked, scratching his wrinkled face. Just so you know, we can't sell guns to under 18s here and you'll need to show a valid gun license when you come to buy one. I'm 19, sir, Logan said, smiling. He got out his wallet and showed his gun license to Hank. Logan wasn't wrong about that. He actually had a gun license, but didn't own any guns. So, tell me about these big dogs, Hank suggested, leaning over the counter. Logan put down the gun and looked at him. Well, I don't know what steroids Oakmere feeds them, but they're huge. The one I saw was about the size of a bear and it was growling all the time. We locked up the house, scared that it was going to attack us. It didn't leave for about an hour, I piped in for the first time. Hank gave me a curious look. We called the police, but they thought we were crazy. That's what the police always say, Hank finally said. They don't believe a word about those huge dogs. Bingo, Logan said excitedly through the mind link. You've seen these huge dogs too? I said quietly. Lots of times, Hank waved off. He looked like he was up to no good. Hey, have you guys ever heard of werewolves? What is a werewolf? Logan asked, looking at Hank in a strange way. I almost laughed when Hank gave that smirk. Come on, kids, Hank said smugly. You guys have a lot to learn. This guy is so gullible. Any werewolf could walk into here and find his secret stash of wolfbane, Logan laughed through the mind link. He's smarter than you think. Once he finds out they're a wolf, he could just grab one of those guns from hell and shoot them dead in a couple of seconds. Oh, Logan realized, looking at me with fear. We followed Hank through the door behind the counter. He took us through a long hallway and into a door that said "Caution, the electricity panel. Enter at your own risk." Hank took out a key and opened the metal door. Logan said simply, looking at the wires and panel box in the small room. "You wanted to show us the power room. Keep your eyes peeled, kid," Hank said with a wink. He went to the far right of the small room and took out one panel from the wooden wall. I was amazed to see a hidden white door appear. "Where are you taking us?" I asked, putting on a bit of a scared face. It was all part of the act. "I want to show you kids the guns we use to take down those big dogs," Hank said excitedly. He opened the door, which had a little staircase that led to another door a level down. We followed him into a passageway that was pretty dark, and he led us to a metal door. "You'll be amazed." Hank opened the metal door and I cringed as that familiar smell hit me like a freight train. Every time I breathed in, it felt like my lungs were on fire. There was so much wolfbane in the room that it was draining my energy. Logan flinched when he caught the smell, grabbing my arm in fright. "Chill out, Logan," I told him. "You're going to make it obvious." Hank switched on the lights, and my stomach did a U-turn when I saw all the weapons piled up in the room. I let out a little gasp, but only so I could hear it. "This place is a real nightmare." Hank took a deep breath and said, "To be honest, I love the smell of wolfbane. What do you guys think? It's got a lovely floral scent." "I'm not really a flower person," Logan said, sweat starting to form on his forehead. "What's wolfbane?" I asked, a bit curiously, my eyebrows knitting together. "It's a rare flower that grows underground," Hank says, as if it's his most prized possession. "We boil it to mix its essence and herbs with the water. We soak the bullets and knives in them for a total of 48 hours so it is useful." "I don't get it," Logan said, pretending to be confused. "What's so special about wolfbane?" "Wolfbane is a powerful medicine," Hank smirked. "We've been trying to get rid of those big dogs for years, but regular guns just weren't cutting it. We found out that once this medicine gets into contact with those dogs, it's enough to make them sick and even kill them." My wolf was growling, but I stopped myself. I wanted to give Hank a good smack for being so evil. At the end of the day, what did werewolves do that was actually harmful to humans? Logan and I had a good look at the guns, but we didn't touch them. "How much is your cheapest gun?" Logan asked. I looked at Logan, totally shocked. "Just go with it," Logan suggested. "The AR-15 rifle costs about $9.65. Logan let out a whistle and ran a hand through his light brown hair. "That's a lot for a gun. We charge a lot because of its wolfbane. Can we get a better price, please?" I asked Hank, giving him a look that said I was desperate. "We really need to get rid of those big dogs around our house for the safety of our baby sister, but we're skint." We were already heading back up to the main store and I was just happy to get out of that place. Hank gave us a second to think about it, then he took us to the entrance. "Well, my boss will be here on Wednesday, so if you're up for it, we can buy it then." I'm pretty sure he'd make a deal with you guys. Logan nodded, looking over Hank's head at a big portrait on the wall. There were about 50 guys with guns and big smiles on their faces. Do you guys have a mafia or something? Logan joked, pointing towards the portrait. Hank laughed and patted Logan's back. That's my team, mate. We love hunting. It's what we love to do. The other day, we had a go at those big dogs. We lost a few crew members, but that's what's spurring us on to get back at those creatures. We have to do it for our fallen heroes. I stopped myself from rolling my eyes. He spoke about his team as if they were the army, protecting the U.S. At the same time, I could feel the hairs on my arm standing on end. Once again, we were faced with the reality that there were people who wanted to shut us down. Great, Logan said, putting on a fake smile. We'd love to have a chat with your boss. We left the store as quickly as we could. Logan sat down looking tired. I can't believe we got a lead. We just need to meet the boss and figure out what to do next. Yeah, I said, taking a drag on my cigarette. That's what you had to go through. Logan piped up after a minute of silence. The tears were ready to fall at any moment, triggered by the raw memories. I blinked it back, took a deep breath and nodded. I'm sorry you had to go through all that. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded again. Logan let out a sigh and decided to switch topics. So anyway, Beck and Kieran, he said in a more relaxed tone, spitting the name Kieran out. We were asked if we could show them the basic training that healers get each week. So we're going to train the representatives tomorrow morning. Oh, come on, I don't want to hit a girl, Beck moaned, stomping around like a 5-year-old. He crossed his arms over his bare chest and pouted his lips. The Eclipse and Moonfire Pack's representatives were giving Logan and me their full attention. Even though it was September and the weather was getting pretty cold, the guys were still shirtless and the women were wearing tank tops and sweats. Werewolves are bound to sweat buckets when it's below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I was still thinking about how we'd found a lead for our investigation. This was actually helpful. We'd know how to prepare ourselves better if the hunters and the rogues decide to attack. But for now, Logan and I are keeping our investigation between us until we get further into it. I'm sure that's not the main reason you're choosing Logan over me, right? I teased, going round Beck. You obviously don't think I'm a challenge. The first part of our training was working out in our human forms, which most packs do. One thing we try to avoid is letting our animalistic side take over our human side. That would cause a lot of tragedies and deaths. As healers, we start with grappling. I remember when I first started training with the healers. I was pinned down in a second flat. I was stronger and faster by then. So, there I was, circling Beck while Logan and Cruz were already grappling. Beck wasn't best pleased when he found out he was assigned to me. He thought I wasn't as challenging as Logan was. It's not that, Beck lied, eyes widening. I don't want to hit a girl. I got to work pretty quickly, grabbing Beck's arm and pinning him down. I then sat on top of him. Beck groaned when I pushed his arm further behind his back. There were a few sniggers from the onlookers. Kieran's gaze made my skin tingle with heat. I tried to ignore it, but the desire in his eyes made me want to jump him right there and then. But I had to remember that he wasn't mine and I wasn't his anymore. "Just a little tip," I said loudly so everyone could hear. "Don't underestimate your opponents. Even if they're girls. Expect the unexpected." "I wasn't ready," Beck defended, his voice barely audible due to the ground. "Let's give this one more shot." I nodded, stood up and brushed the grass off my black tights. Beck lunged for me, but I dodged it. I yawned when I dodged another one of his lunges. I gave a little smirk. "You're showing off," Beck said. When Beck got a hold of my waist, I let him tackle me to the ground. He smiled, thinking he'd got me. But I grabbed his arm and twisted it. He let out a groan, then lay down in the grass next to me. "You're good," Beck gasped, shaking out his arm. He legged it in the direction of the lake. When I looked at Logan, he was chatting to Brielle, giving her tips, and she was nodding along. Cruz had already started running towards the lake, where he would have to swim 10 laps and meet the rest of the group in the woods to play hide and seek. Hide and seek was another way of testing your senses. I remember the time Kieran helped me train. That was one of my favorite training exercises. I quickly shook off the painful memories, smiling at Lila as she approached me. Lila and I were kind of dancing around each other, her blue eyes shining with anticipation. When we got close, she made a quick move to the left as a fake. This took me by surprise. I moved to the other side as an instinct, just like she had planned. She caught my legs in her little arms and threw me to the ground. "You go, baby!" Luca yelled. "You're better than Beck," I joked when I finally got her to stop moving. "Just keep that up and you'll be fine. Go run." "Bossy," Lila smirked before saluting. "Yes, boss." "Ready to be taken down?" Luca asked, smirking smugly as he approached me. "Don't be such a know-it-all, hunk," I retorted. Luca was actually better than you think. He was going round me at full speed, like 3 times, and I couldn't believe it. I was pretty confused by this. When I went to get him, he did a runner, grabbing my waist and throwing me to the ground. With my face in the dirt, I tried to wriggle free from his tight hold on my arms. "Hey Talia, I'm here!" Luca called out, his laughter ringing out. When Luca felt my body go slack, he loosened his grip on me. This gave me just enough time to turn around and slip from underneath him. When I had a spare moment, I grabbed his leg and flipped him in the air. He let out a bit of a groan before I put my foot on his back. "Tip, never trust your enemies," I said, laughing at him. "That was a bit unfair." Luca burst out crying and got up, looking pretty annoyed. "It was fair, Jay," I said, rolling my eyes. When I looked up, Luca had a amused smile on his face. He pointed at my right cheek and burst out laughing. "You've got POO on your face!" Luca screamed. I could feel the blood rushing up to my cheeks before I wiped my face with my hand. "No way, that's not poop. That's mud," I said, looking at the mud on my face. "Whatever you say, face," Luca smirked, running away before I could hit him. I grabbed my towel from the ground, wiped the mud off my face, and then turned to see who was left. My body froze as Logan and I looked at an uncomfortable Kieran. "So," Kieran said, looking between Logan and me. "Go, Talia," Logan said. I could see the smug smirk on his face. "I'm really looking forward to taking this dog down. I think he'd match a black eye." I was pretty annoyed with Kieran, but I couldn't stand to see Logan beat him up. To be honest, I didn't want Kieran to get hurt. I was worried about what might happen after their fight. Kieran could kick us out at any time. Logan would kill him. Kieran would absolutely knock Logan's block off if he ever got on Logan's nerves. So, I did the unthinkable. "Logan, why don't you get the others started with the training?" I suggested, smiling sweetly at my cousin. Kieran's eyes opened wide in shock. "Talia, what are you up to? Just do this for me. I'll be fine." "I need to talk to Kieran," I lied. "If he hurts you, then link me, okay? Then, I won't hesitate to kill," Logan said after thinking about it for a while. "If you hurt her," Logan threatened, "I'll kill you." Kieran just rolled his eyes. "I'd like to see you try." "Are you calling me out, pup?" Logan felt a bit of a rage, as he walked up to Kieran. "You're lucky Talia cares so much that she'll do anything to stop you getting hurt. You hurt her pretty much every day, don't you?" I cringed at what Logan said. He didn't have to mention that. Kieran made a noise when Logan walked off, then looked at me. When Logan was out of sight, Kieran gave me a look that I really didn't want to see. I felt like crying, the tears on the brink of escaping. I kept my cool and gave as good as I got. Kieran walked forward and took my hand, which was limp, in his. I closed my eyes and felt the tingles that shot through me from the contact. "Talis," Kieran's voice was strained as he broke the silence. "I know you won't believe me, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry for putting you through this. I'm sorry for hurting you." Then I felt angry. He didn't seem sorry. If he were, he wouldn't have done what he did. "You're not sorry," I said, my wolf angry too. I grabbed his hand and yanked him to the ground, using more force than was necessary. I tried to ignore the heat from being so close. I tried to forget that he was shirtless and that my hands were pressed against his muscular back. I tried to smell the fresh soil and grass instead of his scent. I gave it a go, but I wasn't having any luck. "I don't expect you to understand," Kieran moaned when I dug my knee into his back. He hung around for a bit before making a move on us, showing off his alpha strength and speed. He grabs my arms and puts them up above my head, putting me in a straddle position on his waist. "You need to calm down. You're grappling out of anger." And I let out a growl, flipping us over so I was on top. I let go of his arms so I could throw my hands in the air, just to be sarcastic. "Is that a surprise?" I pushed his face down with my hands, waiting for him to tap out. He didn't even move a muscle. He looked at me seriously, then slowly ran his hands up and down my body from my ankles to my hips. "Chill out," he said. I was frozen, loving the heat of his hands on my legs. The only thing between us was the thin fabric of my leggings. It took me a sec to get my head straight and remember what was actually going on. I was livid. He was messing with me again. He was doing all this while he had a girlfriend who loved him very much. I don't think Pamela deserved the same heartbreak that I went through. I gave him a menacing look and showed him my teeth. Kieran's blue eyes opened really wide before he turned around easily. I put my hands on his chest to push him off, but I froze. My growls cut short when I felt his face near my neck. I couldn't think of anything else. I couldn't remember why I was angry. To be honest, I think I forgot that I was angry when he put his hands on my hips. Because my shirt rode up a little, his thumb stroked circular patterns on the bare skin of my tummy. I took a deep, shaky breath when I felt his hot breath on my neck. My hands ended up on his chest, but then somehow found their way to his shoulders. I grabbed it when he ran his nose along my neck and inhaled deeply. "Chill out, mate," Kieran whispered, kissing his mark. I shuddered, drinking in this moment that I had missed so much. He pulled away and looked at me with his dark eyes. His dark eyes melted into his blue ones as he stared at me with longing. I could feel my heart beating faster as I got closer to him. He stopped and just looked at me. I couldn't take it any longer. I looked up, brushed my lips with his for a second, and then went back to my work. When Kieran let out a low moan, I thought I might have a heart attack. The tingles and the heat intensified and I could hear my wolf purring. I lowered my head again and tangled my hands in his black hair. He looked at me, coming closer and closer until we were an inch apart. "Kieran? Lila? Is anyone there?" A familiar female voice called out. I could hear pounding on the door of the house. "What was that?" I whispered, brushing my lips with his once again. "I don't care," he said. "Is anyone home?" the voice said again. Then my lycanthrope hearing picked up its muttering. "I swear Kieran told me he'd take me on a date today." The moment hit her like a bucket of ice-cold water. Kieran didn't seem to notice, though, and was still looking at me. I looked a bit upset, and started to cry. "I'm so stupid." I fell for him again. "What's wrong?" Kieran asked, looking a bit confused. He tried to wipe my tears, but I shoved him away. I got up and started moving away from him. He stayed on the ground, trying to process what was going on. "What happened?" "Hey, Pamela's at the front door." "Don't forget you've got a date today," I said, turning around to face him. He flinched when he saw my flushed face and tears falling freely. At the time, I didn't think it was important. He looked pretty irritated. I stopped him just as he was about to say something. "Let's forget about what happened, all right? It was a mistake." I legged it into the house and up the stairs, ignoring Kieran's calls. "So, everything went smoothly with you and Kieran?" Logan asked again, for the 1000th time. He looked at me over his sunglasses, like he was surprised. "So, why did the two of you just vanish after your wrestling match?" "Nothing," I lied smoothly, feeling bad for hiding things from Logan. "Hey, as they say, ignorance is bliss. He had a date with Pamela and I called my mum." I wasn't completely lying. Kieran did go on a date with Pamela and I did call my mum to talk about everything that happened. My mum just sighed and said that we couldn't keep fighting this. That hard truth scared me. "Right," Logan said, sounding a bit shocked, leaning back in the passenger seat. When you're ready to be honest with me, I'll be here. I swallowed, looking at the road ahead. Luckily, we decided to chat about this while I was driving. It was a bit of a distraction and he didn't have to see the guilt on my face. So, what's this boss guy like? I asked, changing the subject. I didn't feel like talking about Kieran today and I didn't want to deal with him. I was lucky that we didn't bump into each other in the kitchen, as usual, because I knew he wanted to talk about what happened yesterday. Kieran was the type to look for closure and to clear everything up. I was the one who ran away. Logan was right after all. He's probably some bald-headed guy who wears Yankees caps and still lives with his mum, Logan said, sounding pretty disgusted. What horrible people! They go after people who didn't even do anything wrong. Haven't they heard of animal abuse? You do realize you called us animals, right? I asked, raising my eyebrows. You know what I mean, Logan muttered. I'm eager to get to the bottom of this whole case, figure out what to do, and bring down the people who hurt Aunt Serena. Revenge isn't the answer. Don't you feel angry towards the people who hurt your mother? Yeah, I'm angry, I said, not that that was particularly surprising. But I never see the point in revenge. It just shows who's the most immature of the two. I want to end this fight, not give them any other reason to get back at us. After a few seconds, Logan said, I guess you're right. When we arrived at the usual spot, I looked at the little red and white building. Its sign was pretty much worn out, with peeling red paint. The glass windows and doors showed the inside of the store, with empty guns lined up. Who on earth names their store the Huge Spot? Logan just laughed. Show-offs. You're just biased because these people are trying to kill us, I laughed, slightly cringing at the thought. Come on, drama queen. It's show time. When we went into the little shop, a skinny guy with a faded blue cap looked up from his book on the counter. Kids, I knew you'd be there, Hank said, his voice raspy. Of course, Logan said, putting on a fake smile just like the one on my face. How are you kids today? Hank asked like he knew us for ages. How are you getting on with Oakmere? Oakmere is interesting, I said, looking at a picture of Hank near a dead elk. Absolutely. Hank saw me looking at his photo closely. He smiled at me, clearly proud of what he'd achieved. That was 2 weeks ago. I took the shot with my rifle. It was massive. It was the biggest deer Oakmere men have ever hunted. I was pretty chuffed with myself for taking down that monster. Like I said, there's got to be something in the water here. These animals are huge, Logan joked, before getting back to business. So, is your boss here? Yeah, he's just in the back. I'll get him for you, Hank said before disappearing into the back hallway. Simon, the kids I was telling you about are here, we heard him say. When Simon came out of the hallway, I noticed the long scar across his cheek straight away. I'm pretty sure it was from one of his hunting trips. He had a big, friendly smile. You'd think he was one of those car salespeople who'll try to convince you to buy the most expensive car in the lot. He had short, brown, and white hair, cut tidily. When he smiled, the corners of his brown eyes crinkled. He had the hunter's build. "Hi, I'm Simon," he said, putting out his hand. "Logan," my cousin said, smiling, shaking his hand. "Talia," I said, shaking his hand. "So, Hank tells me you're looking for a gun because you've spotted some huge dogs around your house," Simon says, making it sound like a question. "Yes, that's right," Logan confirmed. "Where do you live?" Simon asks casually. When Logan doesn't reply, I chip in. Logan doesn't know Oakmere like I do, and I knew he'd come across that question. "In Malcolm Avenue, near the forest." "Oh, yeah, people have definitely seen there," Simon says, still smiling. He turned back to Logan, patting a hand on his shoulder. "You look like a strong man, son." My eyes opened wide when I realized what he was going to ask Logan. It was written over his prideful face. Hank was literally jumping for joy, smiling like a Cheshire cat. Logan said, "Just keep calm, Logan. Refuse the offer like a normal person would. Even if I were a normal person, I wouldn't join their group. They hardly know me. I'll sell you the gun for 500, but there's one condition," Simon continued. "We need a young, strong, and healthy guy in the group. Now that you've had a look at the special guns downstairs, we thought you'd be a great addition to the team. The Oakmere men would be honored if you joined us." "I mean, that does sound like a great offer," Logan says, faking a bit of thought as he considers the proposal. "I'm not quite ready to take on that kind of responsibility. I've got 2 sisters to take care of because my dad's hardly around." "I'm sorry." Hank looked totally bummed out, like a lost puppy. Simon's smile dropped a bit, but he still smiled. "You could take care of them by taking those dogs down," Simon tells Logan, trying to convince him. "Actually," I say, drawing everyone to me. "We just wanted to say a big thank you to the brave men who protect our community. Hank filled us in on your huge attack a few days ago. We only noticed now that we haven't seen the dogs around." "I guess you scared them away," Logan says, smiling and patting Simon's shoulder this time. "So, thanks, but we just wanted to let you know that we don't need the gun anymore because we've got brave men on the team. Thanks again for the offer." After a few minutes of thought, Simon smiles. "We do what we can, right, Hank?" Hank nods his head vigorously, as if he's worried about disappointing his boss. "If you ever change your mind," Simon says, taking out a small white card from his pocket and writing something down on it, "feel free to give me a call." Logan grabs the paper and shoves it in his wallet. We say our goodbyes and make our way out of the stuffy room. We both sigh as we jump into my Mercedes. "That was a surprise," Logan finally said. "I was worried that if I said no, they'd realize I was a werewolf. Thanks for saving me back there." I told Logan not to be afraid, even though I was pretty nervous myself. "Everything will turn out all right." "You don't know that." When I don't say anything, he adds, "What do we do now?" "I'm not sure, cousin," I say quietly. "I don't know. Just to let you know, I've got a few more things to add." "Hey, bestie," I say, plunking myself down on the couch and ruffling Luca's blonde hair. Luca turns the volume down low, which is a bit unnerving, and I throw my feet over his lap. When he dismisses them, I bring it up again. You're irritating, Luca jokes, poking my side. You're just jealous that I'm cooler than you, I said, grabbing some popcorn out of his bowl. Says the girl that was too scared to skip on senior skip day. Hey, there's a difference between being a delinquent and being cool, I said. So, what happened with you and Kieran yesterday? Luca smirks. Don't lie to me either. Your scent was so strong on Kieran when we had our alpha discussion. Luca, I said, trying to hide my blush. We were grappling. Of course my scent would be on him. Yeah, that's what Kieran said, Luca waved off. You and Lila and Beck, you all had a go at me. Your scent wasn't as strong as it was on him. He was also distracted, looking like a lovesick puppy. You're making things up, I muttered, sure I was as red as a tomato now. Was he distracted? Ha! You're blushing! Luca yelled, pointing his finger at me. Spill! You're a real gossip. No, I just care for my best friend. Okay, I said. We were pretty close, and things were getting pretty intense, but Pamela came in, which is pretty good. What? Luca gave a little smirk, clearly picking up on what I'd said. I didn't understand you. I let out a sigh. We were pretty close, and things were getting pretty intense. I blame myself. I'm the one who started it. Pamela interrupted our almost kiss, so it was perfect timing. I knew it, Luca said, smiling. Why are you smiling? Aren't you supposed to be angry or something? Nah, Luca said, shaking his head. I've got a friend here, and I'm kind of hoping you two can bury the hatchet like normal friends do. Whatever, I wave off, trying to change the subject. Why are you on your own? Lila went somewhere, Luca said, looking a bit grumpy. Where did she go? She and Kieran went to visit their dad at the cell. So, the experts, they locked their dad's werewolf abilities forever, and now he's going to be locked up for life, Luca said, clutching his hands into fists. My eyes bulged out of their sockets and my mouth flew open. Their dad, the previous alpha, was in jail, right? My heart was racing, remembering what Kieran told me about the guy. He used to abuse Lila because she reminded him too much of his late wife. I knew how much Kieran was hurt because of his dad's actions, and it hurt me to know that his dad had gone to prison. It was really sad to think that something terrible must have happened to make their dad end up where he is now. Did he beat up Lila? Did Kieran have to call in the experts on his own father? Just as I was about to say something, I heard the front door open and close softly. Luca got up to give Lila a hug, and she sobbed gently into his grey sweatshirt. Kieran walked past the living room and out onto the porch, head down. Before I knew it, I found myself sitting next to him on the porch steps. It was a comfortable silence. The wind was a gentle breeze, causing our hair to move around us. It took me a few minutes to get my thoughts together. I was worried about disturbing the peace we were all enjoying at the moment. I knew it was a silly question, but I asked it anyway. Are you okay? I muttered, looking at his face. I know I'm repeating myself, but I couldn't get over how good Kieran looked. He was as handsome as ever, even when he was angry or sad, with his defined jaw, strong cheekbones, and blue eyes framed by dark eyelashes that any girl would envy. His lips were set in a thin line. "I'll be fine," he mumbled. "I heard about your dad being locked up," I said. He nodded. "Do you want to talk about it?" I stuffed my hands in my pockets and looked at his profile. He looked down before picking it up and staring at nothing in particular. "I got back after a meeting with the reps to grab a few things Lila wanted. My dad was drunk as usual, slurring out and crying about how much he missed my mum. I decided to just ignore it. I didn't know Lila was downstairs with him. She hasn't even been back home since the last time he hit her. Remember when I told you about that story?" He looked at me when I nodded. She was telling him that my mum was in a better place and, according to Lila, he nodded and said that Lila was right. He told her he was hungry, so Lila cooked him some food. Out of the blue, I heard a massive crash and Lila screaming. I legged it as fast as I could. I saw my sister on the ground with the pan of hot food on her. She looked like she'd been through a war. She was in tears. Her hair was a mess. She had a bruise on her cheek. For a werewolf to have a bruise, they must have been struck, Kieran explained, sounding a bit emotional when he talked about how he found Lila. I moved a bit closer, putting my hand on his shoulder to make him feel better. "You don't have to say anything if you don't want to," I whispered. To be honest, I was worried about him going on. I thought my ears were playing tricks on me. I felt like crying for my friend. I totally understood what he was going through. I felt sick listening to what Lila had to go through. "It's all good," Kieran said. "So, anyway, I saw my dad with the pan in his hand. It was raised, like he was about to hit her again. I jumped in front of Lila, pushing my dad back. He looked at me angrily, stumbling as he did so. If he wasn't locked up because of his werewolf abilities, he would have shifted. He started yelling at me for protecting my sister, the girl that he thought was a bit of an idiot. Just imagine how Lila must have felt hearing that from her own dad. I asked him why he was doing this to his own daughter. He just laughed and said that Lila made food that our mum always made. Well, obviously Lila did. She learned how to cook from my mum. When I told him he was an A*, I told him that was the last time he was ever going to see us. I started picking Lila off the floor, comforting her. Then, all of a sudden, he grabbed the kitchen knife and threatened us. I gave Lila a little shove to the side and told my dad to keep his cool. He was angry, so he slashed my arm pretty deep, Kieran sighed, picking up his shirt sleeve to point out a light scar on his muscled bicep. Now that he's mentioned it, I'm well aware of it. I gasped, taking a shaky hand and tracing my finger along it. It seems we had a lot in common. Both of our dads have hurt us. It's funny how fate works, isn't it? Soon after, an expert and Luca showed up in the kitchen. Lila later told me she'd linked Luca for help. The expert took down my dad, and because they had powers that we don't, they paralyzed him. So that's how my dad ended up in prison. We popped by to see him today because the experts got in touch about a meeting. Surprisingly, our dad was actually sober. What was also hard to believe was the repetitive apologies coming from him. Kieran let out a sigh, breathing heavily. He still didn't look at me. Before I could think twice, I wrapped my arms around his neck and gave him a hug. He was shocked, but he wrapped his arms around my waist. "You and Lila didn't deserve that," I said, still holding on to him. "I'm sorry it happened." "Cheers," he said when we let go. "So what's going to happen to him?" "He's going to be locked up for life." Werewolves are all about family because they think that having a family is like a gift from fate. If you physically harm your loved ones for no good reason, you're committing a crime. How do you feel about your dad being locked up? He's earned it, and I think it's good for him, too. He'll get better. How often do you go and see him? We meet with him every month. It's harder for Lila. He did say a lot of horrible things to her. Lila is a fantastic daughter. Your dad was wrong, I said, putting my hands in my coat pocket. Cheers, Talia, Kieran said, smiling at me. You're the only one I've really spoken to about this. You're the one who actually seems to care about what I feel. His statement took me by surprise. I was going to ask him why he doesn't talk to Pamela about this or why she doesn't care, but then I remembered that she doesn't know about our supernatural being. So instead, I smile back at him and rest my head against his shoulder. I don't know what caused my actions, especially since I wasn't on speaking terms with him just an hour ago. It just felt like the right thing to do, and I wanted to make him feel better. To be honest, I was sick and tired of fighting with him and bickering. Why can't we just be civil? Kieran, can we try to be civil? Do you think we could be friends? I'm so tired of fighting. I let out a sigh, throwing in the towel. It was better to be friends than not to be friends. Kieran's blue eyes got bigger before he smiled his head off. I'm fed up with fighting, Talia. Friends, he said, putting out his hand to shake. Guys, I said, feeling a lot better. I've been meaning to talk to Kieran about one thing for a while. I've been itching to ask him even before I came to Oakmere. I'm sure it was something we both wondered about. What about Knox? I asked, being careful not to say the wrong thing. I saw him stiffen beside me. Have you visited him? When I moved in with the Sinclair family, I had nightmares every night. I was suffering from post-traumatic stress after what happened that night. I remember screaming in the middle of the night and my relatives barging in with wide eyes. I'd be able to smell the wolf bane. I saw my mum and Marin flash in front of my closed eyes, with their blood and bruises showing on their dirty skin. My dad wanted to kill me, the cold blade pressing into my skin. My dad was about to stab my mother. My dad's passed away. Knox was out for my friend's blood. It was a lot to handle, being in a situation like that for the first time. I really wanted to know how Knox was. The last thing I heard was that he was in a facility, getting better. He wasn't in the right frame of mind when he attacked us. He'll be there for another year before they let him out, Kieran said, scratching the back of his neck. Do you know why he went crazy? He was given a type of herbal remedy from an ancient book when he was feeling down. It lets you switch off your human feelings, but it's also very dangerous. It brings out the wild side of you and makes you feel all the more negative. Why did his parents get killed? I asked him, looking at him with a torn expression. Healers don't just go around killing werewolves without good reason. That's why I didn't want to kill healers, Talia. They didn't do anything wrong. Knox's parents did a lot of harm to get a cure for Knox's dad. He was really sick and was going to die soon. Because of all the fatalities, they were subject to die. I just nodded and felt a bit sorry for Knox. He was depressed and on meds. He wasn't in the right frame of mind and his parents were at each other's throats. Obviously, he'd think it was the right thing to do, trying to heal each other. He loved his parents and had to lose them. He got depressed. Have you visited him? I asked Kieran, putting my head on his shoulder again. After a few seconds, Kieran let out a sigh and said, "Nah. I'm kinda scared, to be honest." I felt a bit sad because he sounded so sad. He's like a brother to me and it really sucks seeing him so weak. He tried to kill me, and I know it wasn't on purpose. I knew he was angry with me because I hadn't done anything about his parents' death. I should have done something. Just give him the lowdown on what his parents did, at least. He doesn't know about his parents' human-killing business. What kid wants to hear that their amazing, superheroic parents killed about 50 people? I got a bit of a shock when I heard this. So Knox didn't know the truth? That makes more sense. I always wanted to visit him, but I just can't bring myself to see him, Kieran said. I had a good look at him and I knew that if my best friend was sick, I'd be scared to visit too. So I smiled and nudged his arm with my elbow. Come on, we're going to visit him tomorrow. You've got to see him. I know it's a huge weight on his shoulders to know that he did this to his best friend. You need to find closure. Talia, wait, we're going, Kieran. But, and this is important, no way. I'll drag you if I have to. I'm not sure about that. It's not ideal, but it's for the best. What about you? You're not okay with that, are you? Yeah, I'm cool with it, I fibbed. Talia, please. I'm not sure about that. You have to go sometime. I'll go now. After thinking about it for a bit, Kieran let out a sigh. Okay. I was pretty scared to see Knox myself, but I had to find some closure with him too. The expert's mental institute was near a lake on private property. The leaves were starting to turn yellow. It was clean and well maintained, especially for a place that was designed for people with mental health issues. The building was painted a warm beige color and its name was written in black across the front entrance. It was pretty big, about 3 stories high. Brown curtains covered the glass windows. Kieran had told me that this was one of the 2 expert mental institutes in Vermont. Luckily, it was only a 45-minute drive from Oakmere. Kieran also told me that these institutes were all private and that all the werewolf doctors here had a degree. Kieran and I looked at the building for a bit longer, then I said, "Ready?" "Nah. I was never ready." "You dragged me here," Kieran said, turning back to face my Mercedes. "Why don't we head back home? Knox is probably still asleep. I don't want to disturb him." "Nah, we're doing this. If we have to stay here all night just to get you inside, then we will." Kieran groaned, stuffing his hands in his leather jacket. "Why are you so stubborn?" "I've always been a bit of a stubborn muppet," I said, pulling my woolly hat over my head. "Hey Kieran, I'm here." I'll help you. While Kieran looked at the building again, I took his hand. I didn't miss the tingles that shot through my body. Hey, you can totally do this, I said, smiling at him. We started walking towards the entrance and I could see that Kieran's hand was starting to sweat. I couldn't blame him. I was pretty scared and nervous to see the person who tried to kill us. The doors at the front slid open and the woman on reception smiled warmly at us. Her black hair was tied into a bun and her brown eyes sized us up. "Hello," she said. "Hi," I said when Kieran didn't say anything. "We're on the lookout for Knox Granger." "Mr. Granger's got loads of mates," the woman said enthusiastically while rummaging in a drawer. She got out a clipboard and a pen. "Just sign in here and don't forget to sign out before you leave." I nodded, signed my name, and basically forced Kieran to sign his name too. After we signed in, the lady told us to go to the second floor, turn right, and find room number 206. I said thanks and took Kieran with me. "I don't think I could do this," Kieran said, pacing inside the elevator while fidgeting with his black hair. "Kieran, chill," I said, grabbing his hand and heading up to the second floor. The white linoleum floors were shiny under the fluorescent light. The air was filled with the unmistakable scent of werewolf, accompanied by a subtle hint of vanilla. The doors were a dark mahogany color, with numbers painted on the wood. He was breathing heavily, so I had to stop and take a look at him. "Look, I'm nervous too," I said slowly. It was true. My heart was beating really fast against my ribs and I had all these memories of him. I tried to get rid of the horrible images in my head. Knox was better now. I just knew it. "So, why are you doing this?" Kieran whispered. "Let's just go. Give your best friend a chance," I said, trying to comfort her. He still looked unconvinced, so I tugged his hand in front of Knox's door. I could hear the TV on a football game. My heart was beating like crazy and I grabbed Kieran's hand even more tightly. Kieran was standing close by and I could tell he was nervous. I jumped slightly when I heard a familiar male voice cheering for his team, someone I haven't heard from in months. "We could do this," I said, looking over my shoulder at Kieran. He looked down for a moment, then nodded slowly. I twisted the knob, opened the door slowly and tugged Kieran behind me. Knox was in his bed, which was pushed to one side of the room. There was a lamp on a nightstand right next to the bed. Under the window, there was a desk with a few notebooks and pencils. There was a dresser and a closet next to each other. Right next to us was the door to the bathroom. We strolled in a bit for Knox to spot us. When his brown eyes met ours, they opened wide. He opened his mouth to say something, but he didn't say anything. His posture stiffened and he looked like he was about to say a million apologies. "Hey Knox," I said, smiling when no one said anything. I gave him a little wave. "I'm dreaming," he said, running his hand through his brown hair before pinching himself. "No, you're not," I laughed. After a few minutes of staring at us, Knox hung his head and started crying. His shoulders were moving up and down and he was trying to suppress his sobs. He looked up at us with teary eyes. "You guys don't realize how sorry I am," he said. "I'm really, truly sorry for what I did. I'm not making excuses for my bad behavior. It was wrong and I don't expect you guys to forgive me, but I'm sorry. I smiled big at him, and I couldn't help but cry. I looked up just in time to see Kieran staring at Knox with a look of pure concentration on his face. He hasn't said anything yet. Gosh, I'm such a wuss, Knox said, wiping his eyes furiously. I laughed lightly at him. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that to you, Talia. I really shouldn't. I'm not going to make excuses, because that would just make me feel worse. Kieran, I'm really sorry to hear that. I'm sorry for giving up on the one person who's always had my back. I'm sorry for thinking that way about my best friend. I just lost more when I did what I did. No, sorry, Kieran said for the first time, before giving him a little smile. I should have done more to help you. I'm also sorry it took me so long to come and see you. I didn't expect you to come. I thought you hated me, Knox said, standing up from his bed. We don't hate you, I said, before giving Knox a big hug. I suddenly felt bad for him after Kieran told me everything yesterday. We just want to help. Knox cried into my hair a little longer before muttering apologies over and over again. I gave him a pat on the back to let him know it was all good. When we parted ways, I couldn't help but smile when Kieran and Knox did that thing where they hugged each other's backs really hard. Hey, I've really missed you, Knox said when he caught sight of us. Hey, Kieran said, giving Knox a friendly slap on the back. I've got to ask you something serious, though. What is it? Knox asked. Anything. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Do you know anything about the hunters that are trying to attack us? Kieran said, looking at Knox in a serious way. Knox's eyes told the whole story. Confusion. Don't lie to us, Knox. If you do, you'll be sentenced to death for planning a second attack on werewolves. Kieran, I gasped, looking at him sternly. No, it's all good, Talia, Knox said with a smile, before turning to look at Kieran. To be honest, I'm not really sure what's going on. The only person I've ever spoken to about attacking people was Talia's dad. Is there an attack? I told him, don't worry about that, and guided him to his bed. Are you lying? Kieran said, ignoring the glares I was giving him. He crossed his arms over his chest. Kieran, I get it, it's hard to trust me with everything that went down. I get it. I'm telling you, I have no idea what's going on. I swear to God. After a few more questions from Kieran, who wasn't convinced, I interrupted. Hey, how's it going? I asked. Kieran plunked himself down on a chair near the bed while I parked myself on Knox's bed. Kieran leaned forward, worried about his friend's health. Great, Knox said, really excited. They've given me some meds to get the herbs out, and I feel like a new man. Marin and I are on the right track, and I'm happy with that. I'm glad you're here as well. That's good, Kieran said. The only thing I don't like is the assignments they let us do. It's a bit cheesy, isn't it? Painting and coloring? I saw your smiley face in the middle of the group. Well done, Kieran laughed. You've always been jealous of my artistic skills, Redford. I smiled when I saw the two best friends joking around. Kieran slapped Knox across the head and Knox put Kieran in a headlock. It was good to see they were going to be all right. Kieran wasn't going to trust him completely, and I wasn't going to trust him either. We were trying to find closure on what had happened that night, and we were accomplishing that task. After a bit of chatting, visiting hours for the afternoon were over. Kieran and I got into my Mercedes and had a little look at the building, smiling a bit. I still don't trust him, Kieran sighed. I don't either, I said. But it's a start. It was good to see you joking around with him. Yeah, it was just like old times before he started getting depressed. He's getting better. I could see it. So, how did you feel going in there? Kieran asked, slouching in his seat. To be honest, I was pretty nervous. I think I was as scared as you. I wasn't scared, Kieran said, puffing out his chest a bit. I had to practically drag you into the room. If it were for other reasons, I wouldn't mind going in a room with you, Kieran joked, throwing a wink my way. I found that funny, but I punched his chest. You're getting a bit carried away with this friendship, Kier. Oh, so the old nickname is making a comeback. Kieran shouted, rolling down his window and sticking his head out. It must be a miracle, he yelled to the sky. She's not the wild woman on the rampage anymore, she's got her head screwed on. I hit him again and he laughed. I'm only joking, Talis, he said, smiling at me. I couldn't help smiling. It was great to catch up with Kieran and have a laugh. It probably wasn't going to be plain sailing, but again, it was a start. We just looked at each other, smiling, before Kieran swept me off my feet. Cheers, Talis, he whispered. I'm being serious. Just to let you know, I've had a look at the figures and they're in the right place. Heightened Makatu, I muttered repeatedly, putting my hands over Logan's palm. I took a deep breath and focused on the task at hand. I opened my eyes to see Logan's hand, and I groaned in disappointment. Why can't I get this right? I put my hands on my thighs and let out a loud slap, then threw my head back. Don't beat yourself up, Talia, Logan encouraged. Just try again. You're practically bleeding to death because of me, I said, pointing out that Logan was frightened. We were in the kitchen, practicing my healing abilities. I've been training for 14 months and I'm still not perfect. Every time I tried, I failed miserably while Logan's wound got worse with every attempt. It would usually go something like this: Logan would randomly train me. He'd take a knife and cut a small slash on his palm. Before it would heal because of his werewolf abilities, I'd start with what I was taught. I would keep repeating the words, Heightened Makatu, with my eyes closed, trying to get in touch with nature. I've no idea where those two words came from, but I know that in English, they meant healing. When I woke up, Logan's wound was always worse. It'd be bleeding more or it'd be deeper. It was obvious that it wasn't healed. That meant only one thing. I didn't do so well. I kept on failing. Have another go, Logan urged again, looking at his hand. You'll get it in the end. Are you sure? You just don't want to stop now? I asked, raising my eyebrows. He looked like he was in pain. Every time I asked him how it felt, he lied and said it didn't feel like anything. but I knew it was either stinging, burning, or aching. I'm all right. Let's just keep going, Logan said, holding out his bloodied hand to me. He wiped away blood with the third napkin he'd used that day. Okay, I said after a few seconds. I closed my eyes, ready to take his hand. As I inhaled, I recited, Heilative Makatu. Heilative Makatu. Heilative Makatu. Heilative Makatu. Heilative Makatu. I opened my eyes and groaned again. The wound was bleeding a bit. Heilative Makatu, I thought to myself. Heilative Makatu, Heilative Makatu, Heilative Makatu. I felt like crying when it didn't work again. I banged my head on the table and moaned. I'm such a useless healer. No, you're not, Logan told him, wiping blood off his hand. Don't ever say a healer is useless, even if you're talking about yourself. Why am I always failing? You got it in a few weeks, so how come it's taking me so long? I complained, getting mad at myself for constantly failing. You just need to find yourself, Logan said. Maybe it just isn't your time yet. It's important to get back to nature. You need to get past the wall you've built between you. What? How do you do that? I don't know, Logan screamed back, scared by how angry I was. He looked a bit odd with his brown eyes widening and his shoulders going up. I've never had to do that. I'm sorry. I feel so stupid. You keep teaching me, but I never seem to learn from my mistakes. I'm sorry, Logan, I said, playing with my long brown hair. Come on, Logan sighed, putting his hand in front of me. Let's give this one more shot. Okay, I said, closing my eyes. I focused really hard, calling out to nature. Heilative Makatu, Heilative Makatu, Heilative Makatu, still bleeding. Heilative Makatu. Heilative Makatu. Heilative Makatu. Heilative Mick, what are you doing to Logan? A guy's voice shouted, cutting me off. I opened my eyes and groaned. I turned around and shot a dirty look at the ginger. I crossed my arms over my chest. Why are you killing him? Cruz gave me a shout, looking at Logan's hand with a look of shock on his face. Logan just gave a little smirk, amused by the whole thing. And what are you on about? Is it some kind of witchcraft? I've always known you were evil. Cheers, Cruz, I replied sarcastically. I was actually practicing my healing skills while I was there. Cruz's eyebrows were knitted together as he looked closely at Logan's hand and the 3 napkins next to him. His eyebrows shot up before he looked at me. Hey, Talia, you're doing awesome. He didn't tell the truth. Cruz never told a lie. He gave me a nod before making his exit. Okay, let's keep going, Logan said, putting his hand out in front of me. I think we should take a break. I'm not feeling it anymore. Talia, you'll get there in the end. I'm all right. If you want to practice some more, I'm more than happy to help. Logan, I'm not feeling it anymore, I said, avoiding his intense stare. I don't want that wound to get worse, especially with my added negativity. Don't give up. I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm just having a breather. I'm sure I'd get it sooner or later, I said, trying to convince him. It sounded like I was trying to convince myself as well. Okay. I'll just tidy up and cook something. Do you want anything? I shook my head, stood up and went up the stairs. I thought I'd ask Kieran what the hunters and rogues want as part of our investigation. I managed to persuade Logan that it'd be fine for me to talk to Kieran on my own, and he eventually agreed to the idea. I was pretty sure Kieran would share the info with me because we were on good terms. He always used to tell me things about werewolf business. So, I thought I'd go for it and ask him. "Kieran," I called when I knocked on his bedroom door. "Hey, it's Talia." I got no answer. I was sure he was home. His car was parked in the garage and he would have announced his departure, telling us to call him if anything went wrong. "Kieran," I called again, knocking on the door. When there was still no answer, I carefully opened the bedroom door. His scent hit me. I let out a low moan without meaning to. It was tidy and empty. The king-size bed with white sheets was pushed up against one beige wall again. There was a small leather sofa and a single beanbag in front of a flat-screen TV. The window across the room had white curtains. Under the window, there was a desk with a few papers lying around and a laptop in the middle. To the left were two doors, one to his bathroom and the other to his closet. Before I could shut the door and leave, something on his bedside table caught my eye. I went in, shut the door and went over to the picture frame. I looked at it, confused, with my eyebrows raised. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.